Hey guys, today's video I'm going to be doing something a little different. This is kind of more of an experiment, see how this goes, see how much you guys enjoy it or not. So today's video I'm going to be ranking my top 5 most exciting tropical systems to track. Really I've really been getting into tracking tropical systems just within the past honestly, really recently, just within the past 3 to 4 years or so. Yeah, really, especially since the 2017 hurricane season, I really started tracking the storms, the tropical systems a lot more since then. It's a little bit more of just within these few years, but hopefully it'll be fun for you guys to see this. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. And yeah. All right, so coming in at number 6, it's really top 6, but yeah, top 6 is Hurricane Maria is number 6. Now, the reason Hurricane Maria is number 6 is because, really the main reason is because of how much it totally devastated Puerto Rico. It went right through the country of Puerto Rico, went diagonally right through it, right through the center. It was just really mind-blowing and horrifying to see that, especially since it was a Category 5, but when it made landfall in Puerto Rico, it was still a very strong Category 4, so it still had all of that strength with it going right through the island. I think to this day there's still tons of damage from this hurricane there. I think still a lot of people are still recovering from this hurricane. It was a 175 mile per hour Category 5 hurricane. Its pressure was 908 millibars, so the pressure was actually quite low for a hurricane for this type of hurricane to have only 175 mile per hour winds, to be honest. It killed, just alone in this season, Hurricane Maria killed 3,059 people. This is Hurricane Maria, by the way, just so for those of you who don't know, Hurricane Maria happened in 2017. Just to put that out there. Its total damage was $91.61 billion, which is now the third costliest tropical cyclone on record, costliest in Puerto Rican history, which honestly by far makes sense. Let's see. So yeah, you can see here is a picture a picture of damage in Puerto Rico. Probably just a few days after Maria went through, and you can see just total destruction here. Just the houses were totally destroyed. People weren't able to get food, water, really get anything to sustain their lives for a long time. I think it was many months at least. And you can see a great picture of damage here from the hurricane. You can see debris everywhere. Just the houses were totally destroyed. Power was gone. I gotta tell you, of all of the hurricanes that I've tracked, over the past few years, I think Hurricane Maria is definitely the most gut-punching for me, just because it was just so incredibly devastating. I mean, I have no words, really. I'm at a loss of words, really, to describe this storm. Here's another picture of the tree damage, tons of tree damage, of course, with this. Tons of trees were down, branches were everywhere. Just really everything in Puerto Rico was pretty much destroyed, honestly. Pretty much everyone on that island was cut off from the rest of the world. So, yeah, Hurricane Maria was a horrifying hurricane. I have no words for it, really. Thank God. Coming in at number 5 for me is Hurricane Jose, also from 2017. The reason Hurricane Jose comes in at number 5 for me is because it was also happening at the same time as Irma. It was actually right behind Irma as Irma was happening. and it actually became quite strong. Became a Category 4 at its peak, 155 mile per hour sustained winds, 938 millibars. It only killed one person, which is honestly, I'll tell you, it's fantastic. That's great. Honestly, I mean, of course, I'm really sad that it killed someone, but I mean, that's honestly pretty great for how strong the storm was. Now, of course, the reason it only killed one person was because it was generally over water most of the time. Didn't really affect too many areas. I think the main areas that it really affected were the northern Leeward Islands here, Anguilla, those areas. Caused $2.84 million in damage, which is honestly, really, if you think about it, is very surprisingly low for hurricane this strong. Actually, here's a great picture of Hurricane Katia here in the southern Gulf, here in the Bay of Campeche, really. There's Irma, and then here's Jose right behind Irma. So that's actually a great kind of time-lapse view of it, of all three of those storms. That was actually remarkable. This was the first Atlantic hurricane season since 2010, it says. It's the first occurrence of 3 active Atlantic hurricanes since 2010. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then another reason it came out number 5 for me was because as it started to head more north, it started to get its eyes on the New England states. I live in New England, in southern coastal Connecticut, and it was actually cool to see it doing a loop right before it's really started to head north. And that, honestly, it really has scared me a bit, because I was like, man, this is going to be the first system since Sandy for us New Englanders to have to be prepared for. And that's a 5 years since we haven't had a storm since Sandy at that point in time. But of course, honestly, I've felt like Mother Nature has just this thing for New England, just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have all these tropical systems trying to impact New England and get all these people scared to really try to get prepared for it, and then let it just hang out or peter out at the last second. This is pretty much what Jose did, just meandered right off the south, just to the southeast of the coast of New England, and honestly, it lasted a long time because of that. It lasted from September 5th to September 25th. It was extratropical after September 22nd. But yeah, it just sat for days and days just southeast of New England, the coast of New England. So that was very, very interesting storm. So yeah, that's Jose has come in at number 5. Number 4, Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey, 2017 as well. It is tied with Hurricane Katrina as the costliest tropical cyclone on record, causing $125 billion in damage, killing a total of, I'm not doing the math right now, 68 plus 39. It killed a decent amount of people. It killed, I think, actually a lot less people, to be honest, for me, when I'm thinking about it, than I would think it would have. With how much damage it caused. But Harvey, the reason it has come in at number 4 is because, of course, it was a massive flood threat, a flood disaster for Texas, for the Houston, Galveston area. It's the wettest tropical cyclone on record. It just meandered and just sat in Texas for days there in Texas, Houston, Galveston areas, you can see, for just days and days, dumping tons of rain there. And another reason it became at number 4 here is because Harvey really was not much of anything, up until it crossed the Yucatan and into the Gulf, and then it rapidly intensified all of a sudden, and it intensified up until it made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds of 130 miles per hour. And its total rainfall for Texas after that was like 61.5 inches of rainfall, I believe. So yeah, it peaked at 130 miles per hour sustained. Weak Category 4 hurricane pressure was 937 millibars. Honestly, it was just mind blowing for me to see that it dumped that much rain and in this area of Texas. And of course, Texas is a very huge, very prone area for flooding problems, and Harvey was a wild storm. Honestly, I was really 2017 hurricane season. I was in my basement pretty much for the whole second half of the season because of like Irma happening, Harvey happening, Jose happening. Just like every day I was in my basement seeing what the Weather Channel was saying about all of these storms because they were all happening relatively close to one another within August, September, October, November. Yeah, just going through the whole second half of the season, through the peak and into the end of the season. So Harvey was really what started it all. It was wild because, again, when I was watching the Weather Channel while they were covering Harvey, their total rainfall maps for Texas, they ran out of color shades for showing how much rainfall would fall in the Houston, Galveston area, the southern part of Texas, southern coastal part of Texas, that area. It was crazy. They just had to end up going with like 2 feet plus in the end, just showing like a dark gray shading of rainfall, and it well exceeded 2 feet. Really, of course. That's 5 feet of rainfall, just a little over 5 feet of rainfall. My God, I gotta tell you that was so mind blowing to me, especially when I heard like, oh yeah, like I knew it wasn't really anything up until it got into the Gulf. It got into the Gulf, and I was like, holy shit. Yeah, I cursed. I'm sorry, but seriously, I was like, holy shit, this is insane. It just rapidly intensified. All of a sudden, just kept intensifying up until landfall, and then it became the wettest tropical cyclone on record. It was just mind blowing, honestly. Coming in at number 3 is Hurricane Michael from 2018. Hurricane Michael has come in at number 3 because of the fact that the forecast by the National Hurricane Center for Michael up until it got into the central eastern Gulf, their forecasts were saying that it was really not going to be too strong at all, up to maybe a Category 1 or 2 at most. And honestly, we all shouldn't be surprised by this, especially after this season happened right after 2017's season, and it rapidly intensified into a Category 5 hurricane. Maximum sustained winds 160 miles per hour. Lowest pressure, its pressure got down to 919 millibars. Michael, like Harvey, strengthened up until landfall. It continued to strengthen all the way up until it made landfall in what was it, Mexico Beach, Florida. Yeah, it went over Mexico Beach. The eye went right over Mexico Beach, obliterated the whole area. Just obliterated it. Let's see. There's a picture of the eye of Hurricane Michael near peak intensity. That's a pretty decently well-defined eye. But yeah, that's honestly just wild. Let's see. Here, picture of Mexico Beach after Michael. You can see just houses obliterated. Tons of houses were just gone. It was just really just, again, mind-blowing to see that. Here's this is actually interesting. Here are aerial views of the Forgotten Coast before and after Hurricane Michael. That's right. This area is called the Forgotten Coast. This was April 2017, October 11, 2018, post-Hurricane Michael. You can clearly see the difference. Just everything was just gone, just totally wiped out. Here's another picture, just, the flooding, just boom. just wild. Everything was just gone after Michael. You can see just everything gone. Gone. God. This is honestly fun for me too, because I'm just like revisiting history and seeing all of that. Michael is the eighth costliest U.S. Atlantic hurricane. So there's that in perspective. You can see Katrina, Harvey tied at number 1, both causing $125 billion in damage. Maria there at 3 with $90 billion. Irma at 4 with $77.6 billion. Sandy coming in at number 5. Sandy happened in 2012, $65 billion. Ike in 2008 cost $30 billion. Hurricane Andrew of 1992, $27 billion. Florence, also in 2018. Florence and Michael both happened in the 2018 hurricane season. Florence caused $24.2 billion. So Michael caused $0.8 billion more in damage than Florence. I believe that's correct. Ivan, number 10, happened in 2004, cost $20.5 billion in damage. So yeah, this was Hurricane Michael, just a total beast of a storm. Honestly, I was just blown away by it. Killed around 70, nearly 80 people. Killed nearly 80 people. That's wow. All right, coming in at number 2, Hurricane Dorian. Just last year, Hurricane Dorian, 2019's Atlantic hurricane season. The most intense Atlantic hurricane ever to make landfall in the Bahamas on record, and is also tied with the 1935 Atlantic hurricane season as the most intense landfalling Atlantic hurricane on record. It killed 84 people. Total damage was at or a little above $5.07 billion in damage. Hurricane Dorian, I'll tell you, I was tracking this from the day, really all of these storms on this list, I was really tracking them from the day that I actually started monitoring them as just disturbance up until they pretty much dissipated. And Hurricane Dorian is no exception. That's what I did as well. And with Dorian, the National Hurricane Center's forecast, just like with Michael, its initial forecasts were calling it to be only a strong tropical storm up until it made landfall in South Florida. Naturally, of course, that did not happen. That wouldn't have happened anyway, most likely, really, no matter what the path it took, honestly, I think. But, of course, with Dorian, it defied all expectations. They thought, pretty much everyone thought it would either go over Hispaniola or in between Hispaniola and Puerto Rico or over Puerto Rico. It didn't do any of those, went just to the northeast of Puerto Rico, stayed over water the whole time, and just rapidly intensified into a Category 5 hurricane. 185 mile per hour sustained winds. Pressure was 910 millibars. So a very strong, intense hurricane. It was insane. Oh, and then, of course, I also posted about this. I was just blown away by this, the whole Sharpie Gate thing. Yeah, that was wild. Let's see. Dorian's destruction in the Bahamas. You can see, yeah, the Bahamas were just totally obliterated by it because Dorian sat there for 2 straight days, just sat there over the Bahamas, the northern Bahamas, the Freeport, Nassau, those areas, just for 2 straight days, just pounding them. It was horrifying. It was really just horrifying to see that. And honestly, it's really just, by the way, a thing that a lot of us, I'm sure, have noticed over the past few years with these hurricane seasons, that a lot of these, especially these stronger storms, have slowed down a lot right before landfall or going over, right as they're going over land. So Hurricane Dorian was mind-blowing and just totally just a loss of words, honestly. Again, I just have no words for this storm either. Dorian also, again, actually, one other thing. Dorian did something that was also very interesting as it made its turn north, just along the east coast. Of course, it weakened a good bit as it was making its turn north initially. It weakened from a Cat 5 down to like a Cat 2 pretty quickly, and then as it was heading north, it did briefly attain Category 3 status again, so it did get to major hurricane status once again, just off the coast of Georgia. And then I was also thinking, like, maybe it would actually kind of make some kind of more moderate impacts to New England a bit, but it didn't really. It just kind of went out to sea, just barely clipped us a bit here in where I live in southern coastal Connecticut. We got a lot of cloud cover and some showers from Dorian, but that was really it. I mean, so that was interesting, but yeah, it wasn't much, so it didn't matter all that much. But for me, coming in at number one for the most exciting time I've had tracking a hurricane was by far Hurricane Irma. Happened in 2017. Definitely killed over 120 people, caused $77.16 billion in damage. Fourth costliest tropical cyclone on record, costliest in Cuban and the Lesser Antilles history, Leeward Islands history. Leeward Islands history, sorry, not Lesser Antilles. But yeah, Hurricane Irma, just a mind-blowing storm to track, really. It was first formed on August 30th, did not dissipate until September 14th. Formed at the end of August, lasted through mid-September for a good 2-3 weeks. And I believe... Oh, and actually, this is an interesting photo before I show you the actual track and the intensity of Irma. This was the sea surface temperatures during the track of Irma, and as you can see, pretty much all of the water that it went over was quite a bit above average, so it had all that fuel for it to intensify as much as it wanted. So yeah, here's the track. It of course started out as a tropical depression, became a tropical storm, was named Irma, and then pretty quickly actually started to go into a rapid intensification phase and kind of just held on to its Category 2-3 strength, and then really rapidly intensified right before it was getting towards the Leeward Islands and Puerto Rico and these areas just to the north of the Caribbean, and just exploded into a very strong Category 5 hurricane. It stayed at Category 5 strength, I believe, for a straight 2 or 3 days, which I believe is a new record. It's a record. Actually, here it says, at the time, it was considered as the most powerful hurricane on record in the open Atlantic region outside of the Caribbean Sea and Gulf of Mexico, until it was surpassed by Hurricane Dorian just 2 years later. Yeah, the ninth. Yeah. There was that. I want to see. Sorry. So on September 4th, Irma resumed intensifying, becoming a Category 5 hurricane by early on the next day. Early on September 6th, Irma peaked with 1 minute sustained winds of 180 miles per hour. Though I think it honestly got to 185 personally. But with a minimum pressure of 914 millibars, and makes sense. Very low pressure, very intense storm, of course. And Irma was the second most intense tropical cyclone worldwide in 2017 in terms of barometric pressure, and the strongest worldwide in 2017 in terms of wind speed. So that's quite interesting. Yeah, it doesn't really say exactly how many days it kept at Category 5 status, though I believe it was 2 or 3 days, which was the record. But yeah, Hurricane Irma was definitely the most exciting and interesting time I've had tracking a hurricane, by far. So yeah, I mean, that's today's video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Really hope you sat through this whole video. I know it was long, but I really hope you sat through this whole video, because this is a new video type of thing that I have started to do now. So hopefully this goes over well, and I can do some more videos like these in the future. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please comment, like, subscribe below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.